Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Filippo Ceci. I'm a co-founder and director here at iSolutions. iSolutions is a software company born 25 years ago in Italy, which is providing a software platform and games to the iGaming industry worldwide. Today's topic is all about gamification and how it intersects with the online betting industry. We will be exploring how gamification strategies are transforming the online betting landscape, making it more engaging, interactive, and more dynamic for users, so more attractive and engaging. It's a pleasure for me to introduce you our panel of esteemed experts who will give you a lot of insights about technology, marketing, and behavioral aspects of gamification. We will try to understand the current trends and also try to foresee future tools and how gamification can improve online betting. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our speakers. First of all, Mr. Christopher Onyango. Please, Christopher, introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Filippo, and it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Christopher, Head of Product and Marketing for Maybets, and I'm happy to have this session to discuss more how gamification impacts the gambling industry or the gaming industry.
Thank you for being with us, Christopher. Much appreciated. Over to you, Harel.
Hi. Thank you for having me, Filippo. So I'm Harel. I am the VP of Sales and Business Development at Solitics. Solitics is a customer engagement, gamification, and analytics data platform that specializes in the online betting industry. So I'd be glad to be here and contribute my part.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much for being with us, Harel. So thanks everyone for joining into the webinar. Please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and our LinkedIn profile, in which we will find updates and news about the gaming industry and, of course, new tools and software that may be interesting for your business. So let's start with this discussion. I would say it's more about a conversation, so no particular questions and no particular agenda, but let's try to understand a little bit better what is gamification. So I ask to Harald, please, what exactly is the definition of gamification and how it is applied to the betting industry?
Well, generally speaking, gamification is essentially adding a layer of game mechanics into a product environment, right? So a product environment can be a website, an app, a community, and so on, in order to increase all the aspects of the participation, engagement, loyalty, and stickiness. Essentially, by providing your customers with proactive feedback via game mechanics, essentially, you can lead them to a sense of accomplishment. This is essentially something that taps into participants' emotions and impacts how the customers think of your product and the experience that they get. When customers interact with the gamification program, they receive, immediate feedback on performance and guidance towards next steps and achievements. And this applies in a very good way to the betting world, to the online betting world. This essentially means they're adding a layer that can provide rewards and achievements alongside the main aspect of the product, like slots or sports betting. And this gives the players a great sense of achievement, targets, and goals. And that side effect is prolonged engagement, an added layer of fun, and even a sense of purpose. So we can give some examples, like instead of a player thinking about logging in to play some slots and making some bets, suddenly he has a purpose of, wait, I need to log in to collect my daily rewards, or I have tasks that I need to complete. Those kinds of things can be really, really engaging and fun, and just add a whole sense of purpose to how the player sees it.
Yeah, I understand. So it's not just the winnings that will be attracting players to an online betting website, but it's also the fun to be connected to this kind of tools.
Exactly.
So Christopher, what do you think is from this perspective is an operator point of view about the gamification and how it influences player behavior? Have you noticed a shift in player expectation and engagement due to these strategies?
Of course, yes. When you're looking at gamification, we are talking about creating an interactive experience. So this one purely shifts from being a transactional activity to an entertainment-based experience. So the impact of this, it encourages repeated engagement, and from a gaming perspective, it will play a huge role, especially in reducing churn rates. Also, when you're talking about gamification, it increases the emotional investment. So it makes players more likely to stick with a specific brand that has, well executed the gamification experience on their site. And if I'm just to touch a bit, on what Harold had talked about in terms of applications of gamification on online betting, we are looking at things like mission and challenges that encourage frequent betting. We are also looking at having features like leaderboard and competition, and this one actually drives social engagement amongst players, and also things like having features like loyalty programs that reward consistent bettors, and this one is also based off the type of player user segments that have been put in place. So yes. Just to mention a few, things like randomized rewards, community-driven features like social betting and group challenges. We can see all these different areas or aspects where gamification actually impacts the gaming industry, and soon after will take over as the current trends have begun.
So it creates also some sort of affection to the brand, but also to the community that has been created in the brand, right?
Yes.
So let's talk about it. Let's dive into more practical details about gamification. Harald, which are the most effective tools that are currently, used in the online betting? I will ask you some examples about what you can see on a website that is connected to the gamification software.
Right. Well, first of all, I think we should separate between the tools of gamification and how those tools are used with data and personalization. So as far as if we look at purely the tools of gamification, there's no doubt that things like missions, right? So mission boards, so a player having to achieve certain tasks, whether they're daily, weekly, kind of evolving tasks, like in order to reach something, you have to complete something else first. Those kinds of things are very, very engaging and challenging, and it adds a whole new layer of fun and kind of engagement to the player. Things like mini games, right? So widgets and mini games, those are also very, very interesting. Somebody that's making a sports bet, raising like a widget there with a kind of a mini game, whether it's a spin the wheel, whether it's a scratch card, whether it's some other kind of creative minigame. And the sky's the limit there, right? It's how far your imagination can take you. Stores where they earn certain currencies and then they go into the store and use those those kind of, whether it's prize coins or something like that, to purchase certain benefits and things related to the product. Those, and of course tournaments and leaderboards. Those are the sense of community. And I'm really adding on what Chris said here. There's creating a sense of belonging and a sense of community, competition. That psychologically has an immense effect on engagement as well. But
generally speaking, I would say that all those games are quick and easy, very enjoyable, and very fast, right? In terms of
absolutely
interaction.
Absolutely. There are data things that happen today, right? So loyalty levels is something that exists, right? But instead of just the loyalty level on the top right changing from silver to gold, having like this thing pop up with a surprise box, then congratulations, you're now gold, and giving them medals and stuff like that. It's just a different experience. So there are day-to-day things that are happening that can really make a massive impact as far as gamification, to even and simple things like a scratch card that pops up or a spin, like a spin the wheel to win a prize. But what I was going to say is that those are really tools that you can use, but the question is how you use them. And that is what I meant earlier when I said there's the tools and then there's the personalization aspect and the data. I think that the place where gamification really becomes super interesting and really, really effective is the place where you're kind of making it very personalized based on the player behavior, their data, things they like, games they play, their personal habits, and so on. That is where that combination of data, automation, and personalization, combined with those incredible gamification tools that we're talking about, that's where you have a winning experience, and that's where a brand essentially creates their uniqueness as well, and kind of differs and kind of sticks out from its competition as well.
Yeah, understood. And about this, I would really love to hear Christopher's opinion in terms of knowing your player very well. I would say, what are the strategies that are the best for gamification, and how can you translate in terms of player feedback what Harald just said?
Sure, and I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much for that question. So, of course, gamification influences player behavior. And what we're looking at is we need to understand that bettors right now are just not focused on the typical odds and payouts. They want to be immersed in engagement, right? And to be specific, in Kenya, because we have a governing body called BCLP, there have been strict rules, especially tightening on bonuses and, how to promote products to players. So gamification becomes more an alternative and a more sustainable product when it comes to, as opposed to the traditional bonuses. And I'm going to dive in a bit just to explain what I mean. So if you're looking at short-term and long-term engagements, like for instance, if you're looking at short-term, gamification provides things like missions, daily challenges, and instant rewards. And these mechanics help to keep players active. In the long term, if gamification offers the features or opportunities to have tiered loyalty programs and progression-based incentives, again, we can see how gamification plays a huge impact in retention in gaming. Now, if we dive a bit when you look at user behavior changes after gamification. What happens is that we'll have increased logins and betting frequency. And this one also translates to higher deposits amounts due to tier-based progressions. And we're looking at things like VIP packs based on the loyalty programs, right? And also, we end up having like a more diversified betting habits, right? And as Mission pushes users to try different, markets, different games that are available. That one aside, gamification generally just enhances the user experience, interacting from the point where they log in and or register with a gaming platform to the point where they're able to play games. And we're looking at it also from a point of just navigating through the sites and trying to understand which other options or games that they have.
Perfect. So it
Yes.
seems to me that those tools are really something that you cannot have. It's a must nowadays.
Yes.
It seems that the type of experience of enjoyment that those games are able to deliver really enrich the amusement provided by betting online in general. So it's not just betting and winning, it's just having fun. It's more like having fun and enjoy the experience and amusement of those kind of entertainment.
Yes.
Please, Adel, if you want to add something.
Yeah, I would like to add that I agree with everything that was said here, but it's also how the brand uses it. And that was where you also create differentiation between brand A and brand B. And it's about the level personalization. And really, you can be in gamification, you can be as creative as you want, and you can advance your business goals with the gamification, right? Whether it's pushing players to certain areas or playing certain games, promoting new games that they brought onto the product, onto the brand, understanding, what is impacting them and so on. This all has to be measured. This all has to be tracked. But this is something that's very, very critical as well. And that's where, you're kind of creating a differentiation between yourself and everything else out there. I think that the approach that is now starting to take place in the online betting world, and this is not something new, right? Gamification has existed for years in social gaming, and I even have a taxi app where the more taxis I order through it, the better score I get and like better benefits and rewards, right? This is not something new, but in the online betting world, it's been kind of slow to come in and for the world to adapt it. Now it's becoming a place where brands are understanding players aren't coming in to play slots, or play one of the games. The whole experience that the brand offers is a game, and those slots, sports betting, and so on are part of an entire kind of experience and game.
Yeah, I get the concept, and about this, I would really like to have a better understanding from you experts about the psychology which is behind the gamification and really how players emotionally and what achieve and get reward and amusement from this kind of tools, and what is the logic behind all that things.
Chris, you want me to start?
All right, please go ahead.
Okay.
I'll start. All right. Okay. So essentially, there are a number of interesting things that happen to a player, right? First of all, there's a huge sense of progress and achievement. He sees that, he's gaining levels. He's gaining, whether loyalty levels or something along those lines. So there's a sense of achievement and progress. So it's not just, today I'm playing with here, tomorrow I'm playing there. There's a commitment that is kind of starting to be created between the player, the customer, and the brand. So, this can be done through progress bars, can be done through unlockable rewards, level triggers, and so on. That's one. There's also there are things that are long term and short term, right? So the long term is what I just mentioned, kind of ongoing missions, tasks, loyalty levels, and so on. But there's also the kind of the day-to-day and the instant gratification kind of thing, where log in every day to collect your stars. 7 stars get you X, and then 21 stars gets you a Tesla, right? Whatever it might be. You can actually create this kind of great experience for the user. So there are quick bonuses, free spins, little daily surprise boxes where they might win, something big, jackpots, and so on. And of course, there's also the aspect of the competition and social recognition, right? So here we're going into the leaderboards, the tournaments, right? Where they can actually kind of compete and and show their professional skills, right? Poker, for example, that's one example. Where they're like, I want to win the tournament because and I want everybody to see that. There's a huge psychological effect there. And then when you create that in your brand, it's the player is not going to just leave, because he can't take all of that with him. You can't just move it to a different brand. It's there. His progress is there. His social standing is there. His prizes that he won, he can only use there. It just changes the whole game, and it becomes another brand to the brand that I'm playing at.
Yeah, for sure. You have to build up the charts, climb up the charts once again. So I'm not gonna lose that progress for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
By the way, I was a video gamer back in the day, and I understand the challenge with the community, with the same passion and attitude for gaming. Yeah, I understand. So
his friends too. That's another thing, right? Goes, hey guys, listen, I'm playing this and that. You gotta come see it, and it creates excitement. And you're like, hey, let's sign up, let's compete. There's awesome stuff that they can do there.
Yeah.
Absolutely, Christopher. For sure, you have evidence about that.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Gamification, if you're looking at it from a psychological sense, it creates that dopamine effect. And what that means is that, we need to understand that players are driven, just as it was said before, are driven by buzz, unlocking rewards, and, achieving milestones. So that triggers the dopamine effect for our users. So when we have features like free bets or spin the wheel or surprise bonuses, what happens is that it keeps the players engaged, or it increases the engagement. So randomized rewards work well because they trigger that psychological thrill in players, and also it creates some sense of competitiveness, just as we had mentioned, and also social recognition, where if you have features like leaderboards, ranking, and weekly challenges, they tap to the human instinct and of competition, and also just public that effect of just having that public recognition for top bettors also increases brand loyalty. Now, if you're looking at things like emotional engagement and habit formation, we look at it, and of course, from a psychological aspect, the things like daily logins, missions, push notification, and even the small things like the visual animations that make betting a habitual routine. So rewarding consistent play also, like for example, like if one bets consistently for 7 days, it unlocks something like a streak bonus. That one also builds engagement, right? Yes. And also, if you're looking at it still on the psychological aspect, and creating a sense of belonging, gamification offers tier-based systems, and this is how I'm looking at it, like bronze, silver, gold, platinum. It gives that sense of exclusivity.
Yes.
Players, right? Yeah. And also, like in terms of like VAP programs, then encourage also higher spending and also long-term commitment. So this one can also work in terms of being a tool for retention and also increasing revenue. Now, if you're looking at the psychological aspect, especially if you're checking out the engagement by age demographics, I would divide them into like 4 tiers. So we have what we call the Gen Z. And if you fall between 18 to 24, that's where you're
I don't
100%.
remember those years.
Don't remember what that's like. Sorry, guys.
But please explain to us how it's working gamification for those guys.
Yeah. So, what from a psychological aspect, if for guys or players who fall between 18 to 24, they have lower spending power but love heavily gamified and social betting experiences, e.g., things like chat rooms and things like influencer challenges. And you can see how that one also impacts that group of players from a psychological sense. Then we also have the millennials. So these are players who fall between the age of 25 to 34. So they are highly responsive to challenges, to points, to leaderboard systems, due to their familiarity with more especially video gaming, right? Then, of course, we have the third tier, and these guys or players fall between the ages 35 to 44. So these players prefer a more structured VIP programs and exclusive packs. So this is where gamification comes to play in terms of having personalized bonuses for such players or users. Then lastly, for players who are ages 45 and above, they engage with straightforward rewards like cashback offers and simple loyalty programs. So that is how, if you look at it in terms of user segments and the psychological impact behind it, that is how I would place it.
So that's strange, very interesting, because you have to customize and target different range of age with different type of tools according to the habit of that particular range of age. Very interesting. And as you were mentioning, like for instance, statuses or loyalty levels is not something new in the world, because for instance, airliners are doing something like that since many years now. So it's just a matter of applying those concepts and those psychological attitude to the gaming industry, which is something new, actually. So,
actually, by the way, what Chris mentioned as far as the age groups, right? That's exactly an example of, it's not enough to just put in throw in spinning wheels and mission boards. You want to personalize it according to their preferences, according to their gaming habits, amount that they're playing, games that they're playing, and so on. I think that it all needs to come together.
I totally agree. Yeah.
So we have spoken about all the good things about gamification. Maybe we can actually try to understand which are the challenges of integrating this kind of tools inside a betting system, both in terms of technical aspects, but also in terms of regulatory aspects, and also strategy in terms of presenting these tools to the players. So, Christopher, maybe I'll leave the word to you initially. In terms of an operator perspective that is actually utilizing a software, I'm sure that you have to call up your technical department in order to do integration with this kind of tools. Maybe you have to consider a regulatory aspect, as I was mentioning. So what are the challenges behind these kind of topics?
Thank you so much for that question. So I'm going to respond in 3 tiers: for the regulatory compliance, the technical challenges, and also the player adoption. So from a regulatory point of view, of course, our governing body here in Kenya, BCLB, has imposed strict rules or limits when it comes to promotional incentives. and also betting promotions must comply with responsible gambling. So those are some of the challenges that are there from a regulatory point of view. Now, when you're looking at technical challenges, the one aspect I'd look at is the seamless tracking of missions, badges, and challenges require real-time AI, AI-driven data processing. So if this is not integrated and implemented well, of course, it's going to impact the entire system. You're not even now talking about just the user experience, but you're literally talking about the site performance, right? So that also goes to my second point, like purely designed gamification can lead to latency issues and system overloads. So that is like the technical challenges, how I would view it from my end. Then when you're looking at player adoption and education, especially for the older users, they might struggle with gamified features on the platform. So there's need for user-friendly tutorials and onboarding guides to mitigate this challenge. Yeah.
So you have to prepare a set of help pages, maybe on the website, to actually explain how to use those kind of tools, especially to the elder players that maybe are not used to video games or such features. Understood.
Yeah, and on top of that, just to add to your point, we can also, like, one of the things that can be implemented are things like website tours, right? And then the system has to be seamless to the point where you need to detect when a user is experiencing specific challenges so that it can trigger specific pop-ups to help the user who is actually on the site.
I imagine a lot of study behind that, right?
Yeah.
So, Harel, you are a provider of this type of tools, and I'm sure that you have faced many times the challenge to simplify the adoption, technically speaking, but also on a user perspective of the gamification tools about a customer that you have. So, how would you resume and recap your experience in terms of simplification and help to your customers, technically speaking?
Well, first of all, everybody wants to go very far and, create amazing things and, create great experiences, and the fuel that drives all of this is data. So that's the foundation of everything related to customer experience, everything related even to the product, definitely to gamification. So the first challenge is that operators that want to implement, gamification and create overall, regardless of gamification, great customer experiences, need to use their data. And that's an area where a lot of operators have challenges. They have to have the right infrastructure in many cases. They have to know how to deliver it in real time. Chris mentioned that, and I couldn't agree more and stress it enough. If you're not doing it in real time, don't even bother doing it. Real time is one of the most important aspects of good customer experience and gamification. So what we're seeing is a lot of operators that have a combination of, a lot of different data sources, legacy systems combined with newer systems, and putting all of that together is a huge, huge challenge. And that is, and let's be honest, I mean, an operator is not normally, right, is not a technical data specialist as an organization. They have a core product, a gaming product. That's what they know how to do. They're good at it, and that's what they want to focus on. And that's where providers analytics comes in. We enable them to kind of skip that step where they have to do a lot of internal development and implement that kind of the tools that they need for creating the great customer experience and gamification. We enable them to do that in a much, much simpler way. So you have to think as an operator about the incredibly difficult data project that you would need to do, especially if you want to do it properly and in real time. you should bring in experts and not defocus your company on wild adventures. And that's something that is a huge challenge, and that's where we come in and help with that. So it's looking at the whole picture, using your data, using your infrastructure properly, bringing it in and tying it all together, right? So it's not enough. This was mentioned numerous times along this conversation alone. The tools aren't enough. The gamification isn't enough. You need it to work together with your data for personalization, with your customer journeys, and combining also various third-party tools is also a challenge. So it would be better to bring a provider that can provide everything in one place to make it seamless. And then there's the challenge of adopting it to your brand, making sure that you don't want the users to feel like they've exited your product and entered a different product, right? It all has to speak the same language. That takes time normally too, and that's again where you need to work with. We need to centralize that preferably with one provider that can really concentrate everything for you in one place. So, and this is exactly the places where we specialize in and the service that we provide. Once you have that, you can add additional things like machine learning and AI to enhance that level of personalization, right? So you want to be able to predict churn. You want to be able to predict lifetime value. You want to be able to create a gamified experience based on those predictions as well, and based on that AI. Afterward, it could be content adjustments and matching based on AI as well. But it's a game of steps. You have to learn how to crawl before you run.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, we have a question from the audience. So, Harel, I would like to propose the question to you due to the fact that you mentioned AI. The question is the use of generative AI being explored to create even more immersive and personalized gamification experience?
I think that it's definitely being explored. It's a natural process. I don't know how far along it is yet. I think that we will reach a point, maybe not so far away, right? It could be very soon, where it's not a customer entering a website and then there's gamification as part of it. It's just an entire kind of experience, with AI generated content, adaptations on a personal one-on-one level, where it's just an entire kind of seamless experience, just as if you were playing now a game on your PlayStation, right? You're not entering it, you're just entering this entire world and you're kind of immersed in that world. I think that content based on AI as well as on the targeting, and there's various levels there. It's all going to be eventually part of that, but it's a process. It's taking time. We have to keep in mind that not all countries, not all the geographies and all the countries have that ability. A lot of people are still playing on their phones. The phone can't necessarily handle that as far as being able to process that level. So there's a few challenges there as well. And again, the online betting industry is a very late adapter to this whole thing. There's so much to do before we even go there. So, but yeah, it's a natural process. It will happen.
Sure. Christopher, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, especially on the bit where how it actually impacts the loading of the site, by incorporating, in as much as I know in terms of trends, sooner or later, like we'll head there. But in terms of one of the challenges I feel like we'll have to overcome is how does it impact the heaviness or the lightness of the site, because that one also, and it all goes back to system overloads and latency. How do we combat that aspect?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's very important to have a fast loading page for customers, first of all. And you mentioned earlier real-time data exchange between all the software providers. And when you are hit by thousands of transactions per second, that is something difficult to achieve. That is something critical to achieve. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, and just so to add, so that at least we get like the full context, especially in the Kenyan market, things like internet bundles or data, it's very important to users. So if the consumption is high, then again, you'll have lots of drop-offs from users. So we have to create that balance where, yes, we're trying to create an enhanced experience, but at the same time, it should also be sustainable to our players, especially where they need to purchase internet bundles.
Yeah,
by the way, that's also, that's again, that's also kind of personalization, right? So
Yes.
it's just like you could, you guys are very active in the Kenyan market, right? And that's your focus, and I'm sure
Yes.
that personalization for that market is important to you, right? Whether it's like national holidays, themes that are relevant, and so on. And you also have to think about the infrastructure, right? Like the bundles, the internet bundles, the data bundles. You don't want to you don't want the person playing your games like thinking, wait, am I finishing up my package? No, it's not worth it. You don't want to go there. So all of those aspects are important.
Cool.
Yeah, I guess that all over Africa, the bandwidth problem and the cost of the data exchange is very important for the players. So choosing the right technology in providing this kind of tools, and of course the website as a whole, is very important for the African market, so that the player can save data and also achieve a comprehensive offer on the platform without spending just to connect, just to connect.
It's true for Asian and for South America and some countries also.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. Absolutely, yes. So we have spoken about AI. Maybe we can dive a little bit on future trends about gamification. And I would ask to both of you, how is evolving the gamification, and how do you foresee the future of it? Not just what we can see at the moment in the market.
Okay, sure. Okay,
probably we have spoken about AI. Maybe we can dive deeper into it, or maybe you can suggest new trends or what you would like to achieve in the future.
Yeah. So probably on my end, I'll talk about future trends, and probably in combination to innovation. One, looking at it from a point of hyper personalization using AI. Like I see it as a trend. So AI-driven challenges that adjust to players' habits and preference. So it will reach a point where we'll no longer be personalizing things like games, the experience, based on a group of players, but it will reach a point where it will be so hyper-personalized to a specific user. So I see that one as a trend, especially when it comes to gamification. Secondly, another trend which is already there, it's community-based betting. So we are looking at things like group betting, shared pools, or squad-based challenges that will also increase. That one will lead to an increase. I see that one as a trend. Looking at also live betting gamification, for example, predict the next goal scorer within the next 60 seconds, and you get like 2 times a boost, or you get some bonus, in that aspect, when it comes to gaming. And lastly, number 4, I'm looking at blockchain and NFT based rewards. So this is where bettors can earn tradable digital assets as NFTs tied to their betting achievements. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
By the way, Chris, the in-game thing that you just mentioned, which is a super amazing use case. I love that. It's actually something we're seeing today happen already.
Yes, so exactly. Yeah.
Great use case.
Yeah.
So what are you preparing for the future? What is your roadmap for the future at Solitics?
No, I could tell you, but I'd have to cut. So first of all, diversity. Let's start with that. A much wider array of tools to use as far as widget types of missions, how to implement and embed them across your product and your brand. The diversity is going to be incredible. In fact, I think that today, when you look at casinos, sports betting brands, there's a lot of similarity, right? I mean, yes, it's different designs, but even the games that like you can pick from, many of them are the same. There's a big similarity between the different things there. I think we're going to see more and more diversity there. I think we're going to see completely different experiences, which is an amazing thing. We're going to see more personalization, right? So it might even come to a point, well, it will come to a point where two people go into the same brand and have a completely different experience across that brand. And using what Chris said, a person aged 50, 55, that, leave me alone with all this stuff. I just want to like spin it, or I want to play sports betting. That's, he's going to have that, and a 30-year-old entering at the same time is going to have this immersive kind of gamified experience. So I think we're going to see that level of diversity. I think we're going to see that level of variety. I think it's going to be more and more personal, and yes, over time with additional AI content generated by AI, and it's going to become more and more, in my opinion, it's going to go more and more towards the kind of a video game kind of aspect over time, a fully immersive experience with a personalized touch, and if it's not going to be in absolute real time, it's not going to be relevant.
Got it. And by the way, do you see some conservative attitude in maybe biggest brands or certain companies around the world to implement gamification tools? Maybe there is some sort of reluctancy in adding this kind of features to their website, or is it just something that they want and that's it?
It really divides. There are some that have an amazing product that works, and they're kind of like, they're kind of right now with this attitude where if it's not broken, don't fix it kind of thing.
Yeah, correct.
There is that kind of approach. It really is a matter of culture. There are some that have an amazing product, but they are kind of leaders and they want to stay ahead of the curve, so they are doing it. Yes, but you are right, in a conservative way. They're not like changing everything and making it completely different, but it is something that they are implementing. I think that a lot of them are also implementing these things and are measuring the impact. And we haven't spoken even about that, about measurement, but it is something that is critical to do, which is you have to look at the data. You have to look and see what the impact is, and you have to measure that. So there's a wide variety. And again, culture, which geos they're active in. Are they working in the African market? Are they working in Europe? Or it really does there's a whole array of different types of operators out there.
Absolutely. And by the way, I encourage the audience to add your questions to the chat if you want to get deeper in some matter. Christopher, maybe you want to add something to this topic.
Probably on my end, like I couldn't agree more. I think I've touched more on the trends in terms of what would happen. Maybe there's a question I felt the need to answer in terms of whether gamification is a potential way to teach responsible gaming behaviors to players. I just felt the need to address that.
Absolutely.
So, because I remember we were touching on the topic of challenges, and we were talking about BCLB, the governing body, is imposing strict rules when it comes to bonuses. So one of them being pushing responsible gaming. Now, the thing is that gamification should actually encourage engagement and not just compulsive betting, right? So gamification, of course, can offer things like options, rather, like mandatory cooling off periods, deposit limits, and also self-exclusion options. So depending on the provider who has contracted, or the users who are using the gamification system, they can also factor these aspects and make sure that is integrated. So I hope there's one of our users called Manuel Cara. I hope you're answered. Yes.
Yes, thank you very much, Christopher.
Yes.
Can I add?
Sure.
I think that, Aaron, maybe you should answer the first question about how to measure the effectiveness of gamification. So what are the metrics? You mentioned it just a minute ago about to really understand if gamification works and how to get data, to get scientific figures on the results of gamification.
Yeah, I think that it all connects together, by the way, including the responsible gaming, but I'll answer the question. So first of all, measurement, generally speaking, of marketing is not an easy task. Whether it's on the acquisition side, whether it's on the...
Sometimes impossible, absolutely.
Really one of the hardest tasks out there. And whenever you think you got it down, there will always be somebody next to you that will say, no, but it's because of this, no, it's because of that. So it's always this debatable subject. We believe in data-driven attribution. Okay, so we don't look at clicks and opens and then statistics as a proper way of measurement. We believe that that measurement should be completely data-driven, and that's where you should look at the KPIs. Now, depending on where you're implementing the gamification, or let's say the goals, right? Because there's gamification for ongoing retention, there's gamification for reactivation and churn prevention, there's gamification and strategies for conversion. So you need to look at the proper metrics. On ongoing retention, you want to look at bet values, you want to look at bonusing ratios, you want to look at time being played, you want to compare it to before you did it to after. You want to create that measurement. You want to create maybe target versus control groups, right? That you have that clear indication about the impact with and without. But you need to look at the hard data, not X amount of people clicked on something, that means it's working. No, you need to actually understand what is the actual uplift that's generated from that. In order to do that, you need a proper data platform to do it. That's again another place where you want everything to be under one roof and not have multiple tools that do everything all together. So look at the relevant metrics and the data. Make sure that the platform you're using is able to track all that data and is connected to all that data, and then can give you a clear picture of what the impact is, what the uplifts in revenue are, what are the retention rates, what's happening with longevity, bonus ratios, right? Gamification, we didn't mention it. It's one of the ways to reduce bonusing, by the way, because you don't have to bonus just everybody. You can actually create a much more fun experience without just granting bonuses left and right. So measure all of this, make sure it's data driven, not statistical, and based on where you're focusing your efforts: conversion, retention, right? If you're a conversion, you're going to look at deposits. That's what you care about. Yes, you're going to look at how long they play afterwards and what they do and so on. But initially, you're going to look at the deposit that you're generating there. So that's kind of that's the way we kind of address it on our side.
Yeah, I appreciate your answer, very clear. Thank you very much. And I'm sure that Christopher also want to add something, because I'm sure that they have a lot of reporting and data-driven figures. You're muted,
Yeah.
Christopher. Sorry.
Thank you. So I couldn't agree more. Again, data reports are very critical when it comes to even making business decisions. And what I love most about gamification, just as it has been mentioned, it doesn't have to be about awarding bonuses, blanket bonuses to everyone. But this one is more customized based on user segments and where it needs to be. But what is most important is how to use user engagement, as a strategy for retention, customer retention. So that's my take. And also for us to be able to sort of like optimize gamification, this is where reports come in, because we need impacts in terms of like what is the ROI, right? What are also some of the challenges that they're experiencing, because based on user behavior, we're able to get more insights that guides the business to make, and just business in general, just to make the right decisions, not just from a marketing perspective, but even from a platform perspective. It could be we need to introduce similar products or similar games based on user activities on a platform.
Great, great.
Yes.
I'm learning so many things, gentlemen. So thank you very much. So we have a last question. Is there a third-party gamification API gaming companies can use currently? So I think this one is for you, Harel.
So I think the question here is kind of inherently wrong. So if I mean, the question is, how do you implement?
Yeah, I suppose so. Yes, but API. I
mean, the API.
Yeah.
I mean, again, so if you want to implement just the game itself, right? Just the spinning wheel, just the scratch card, and so on, you don't even need an API. You just get it, like you can implement it as part of like with an SDK and stuff like that. But it's going to be like, like putting the car on cruise control and having it drive into the wall. It's just not going to be, not that good of an idea. So because you have to use your data, right? So who you show it to, why you show it to them, what prizes are showing up there, what options are showing up. So it's not, no, it's not just, you can't just do an API. You need to have
plug and play.
Yeah, you need to do it properly. And the properly means connecting the data to your gamification provider, having the gamification itself as part of your product. It's not as complicated if you're using the right partners, especially ones that are data experts. Not going to say who, but it is more than just connecting an API and getting games from them. It's not just that alone.
So it's maybe a consultancy process also in terms of experts and people that really design a strategy on top of the technical integration with the provider. So it's not just
I believe
something
that
you call an API, which is this exchange method of data, and you have to create a strategy. You have to know your players. You have to obtain results from data and maybe adapt step by step to what direction of the players is, and so on and so forth.
To put it in a very, very straightforward and blunt way, I believe that in order to gamification properly, it has to be part of your CRM and marketing automation. I just don't believe that proper gamification that is well embedded and seamless and personal can be done properly by combining a million third-party tools. It has to work together. So I think that it's critical that it is. That's why we did it the way we did it. Just has to work together. It's like having an orchestra play, like, but in different halls. It's not going to work so well. You need it all to be under one roof with one conductor.
Do you agree, Christopher? You can disagree if you want.
No, I actually do agree, because I feel like automation and real-time data processing go hand in hand. So advanced CRM tools, automate gamification and ensuring like that seamless execution, of course, you're able to meet the goals in terms of players, and that is creating a stable user experience. And this one also translates to greater ROI, especially in terms of revenue, return on investment. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I don't think we have any more questions. We have spent more than 1 hour in this conversation. It was really interesting. As I was telling you, I've learned so many things. Thank you very much. I hope it was also useful for our audience. I don't know if we can come to some conclusions. Maybe, Christopher, you want to add something?
Oh, sure. So, of course, as we come towards the end of this session, it's very clear that when it comes to gamification, it's no longer an option, but it is now a core strategy for engagement and retention. Yeah, it's no longer an option.
Sure.
And especially in our markets, our players respond best to interactive, social, and reward-driven features. So all these features, like whether it's streaks, whether it's spin the wheel, whether just an engagement or competition like leaderboards that fosters competition amongst players, they'll respond the best. And then, of course, lastly, when it comes to AI and real-time data, it will define the next phase of gamification in betting. Yeah.
Harald, over to you. Any matter left, or any ideas you want to share?
I think that if I wanted people to come away from this session with kind of an idea of what would be the way to go about it, is don't just stick gamification in your product just for the sake of saying we're doing gamification. Do it properly, do it with data, do it in a personal way. Make sure you're working in real time across all the data, and do it in a proper, focused, and measurable way to kind of take your product forward, differentiate yourself from your competition. Other than that, it was a pleasure hearing you guys and learning, and I appreciate being here.
Yeah, absolutely a pleasure for me as well, and I hope the same for the audience. I thank you very much for being here, and please don't forget once again to subscribe to our channel, YouTube and LinkedIn, so you can keep up to date for the following webinars. Once again, a pleasure, Harald and Christopher, for your presence here and for your really interesting insight about this topic, and see you next time. Thank you very much.
Filippo, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.